Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of the Lego Movie, which was shown at the CineStar movie theaters at Potsdamer Platz. The film was directed and written by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. The story was also by Lord and Miller alongside Dan and Kevin Hageman. It was produced by Dan Lin and Roy Lee. The cinematography was by Pablo Plaisted. It was edited by David Burrows and Chris McKay, and it stars Chris Pratt, Will Ferrell, Elizabeth Banks, Will Arnett, Nick Offerman, Alison Brie, Charlie Day, Liam Neeson, Morgan Freeman, Channing Tatum, and Jonah Hill. Now, I basically went into this movie with very low expectations. I thought that this was going to be the standard kiddie fare of pop culture jokes being thrown in here and there. I was basically not so enthralled by the trailer, even though it did look very promising, but it just didn't really resonate with me initially. But after I saw this movie in its entirety, I definitely have to say this really surprised me in more ways than one, in the most positive way ever. And all I have to say is that this is definitely a contender for the next Academy Awards for Best Animated Picture. This is so up there with the likes of Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Well, so far. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of other contenders this year. Now, story wise, it's really nothing anything new. It's nothing new for me because this basically tells the story about an everyday normal guy by the name of Emmett who goes day to day working in his blue collar job as a construction worker, lives his everyday life, and basically is the everyday nice guy that not a lot of people seem to remember or even care about. And he basically gets to be the chosen one after a series of events in terms of having a huge jewel stuck on his back. And that's where things start to get a lot more interesting with the story. At first, the story didn't really resonate with me at first, but as the film progressed, it got a lot better, it got a lot more exciting, it was a lot more fun, and it was just, well, exciting all around. And the comedy definitely helps it. The comedy is mostly reminiscent of the likes of Monty Python and many other classic comedies, such as Honeymooners, but mostly reminiscing of Monty Python because of all the texts that appear usually at the beginning of each scene or each moment that the characters appear in, like 10 seconds later, especially like the text of Middle Earth or something like that. It was just that fun. Sure, it's nothing fresh, nothing new, but it's a lot of fun to watch. It was definitely not boring. I didn't feel like I had to sleep, and it was basically backed up by such great comedy, usually leaving a very nostalgic feeling, especially for someone who's been watching a lot of comical films in the past, mostly that of Monty Python, Mr. Bean, and many others. So, yes, the story may not be anything new, may not be anything fresh, but it was just a lot of fun. The animation is definitely very colorful all around. For a film that stars a bunch of Lego figures, I have to say that the animation was very smooth and flawless all around. Not to mention very bold and colorful. Every detail that this Lego world got was just so visually enthralling from beginning to end. And there are also some live action sequences that occurred, even though this film is an animation film. This definitely really, well, surprised me a lot. It was that gorgeous. The characters are very colorful. Sure, Emmett does start off as your everyday nice guy who apparently wants to follow the rules and make sure that he's safe and make sure that he leads a very safe life. But when he goes on his adventure to become the master builder that he is inside, that's when things really start to get more interesting with him. However, we don't really know his backstory before the movie started. We don't know how his family life was, as he's basically a single guy who lives in an apartment and has a job as a construction worker. He doesn't really have that much depth to him, but it's very safe to say that he's a lot of fun to watch from beginning to end. And his journey growing up from this everyday nice guy that nobody seems to care about into someone who is able to come up with such great ideas and really prove himself to do whatever it takes just for him to survive and really, really realize that he can be creative. He can create a lot of things that not a lot of people can. Definitely is a very exciting journey for him that never left me bored. Not to mention, he has a lot of funny lines. Wild Style is, well, she's your typical action chick. She's a kick ass female that I definitely really like. Hey, I'm a real sucker for kick ass females, of course. Yeah, she's a kick ass female. She kicks a lot of butt, yet she's also a very sweet and very caring person. And it's also very obvious to know that you can really see that there's a lot more chemistry with Emmett and Wildstyle more than her relationship with Batman. Yeah, I could really tell from the very beginning that Emmett and Wildstyle were going to be a couple. It was very obvious from the very first moment that they met that okay, she's the one for him and he's the one for her, even though she had a boyfriend in the form of Batman. So yes, Wildstyle was definitely a lot of fun, and she's also very level-headed compared to Emmett's very goofy, very cheeky, but mostly very goofy nature. While Emmett is very goofy at times, Wildstyle is a lot more level headed. She's very straightforward, not to mention kick ass. And she's also very sweet when she has to be. And I guess that's really what I love about Wildstyle. She's kick ass, she's sweet, and she's very level headed. Batman is also another fun character to watch. This version of Batman seems to parody a lot of the dark and brooding incarnations of Batman that we've seen, like the Batman animated series and even the Christopher Nolan movies. Not to mention the 1989 Batman movie with Michael Keaton. He definitely, well, just like a lot of previous incarnations of Batman in comedies, he definitely captures that brooding nature, that, well, gruff tone that he has, and speaks in a very gruff tone all around. He does have some funny lines from time to time, and he's definitely very enjoyable. Then we have Benny, who I definitely really felt so entertained just by watching him, watching his every moment on screen. His obsession to build a spaceship was just so hilarious. His enthusiasm to do something almost reminds me of either Shuichi from Gravitation and even that of Ryuichi Sakuma's hyperactive nature. He definitely has that Genki guy nature, and sometimes I don't really know where he gets this energy from, but nonetheless, he's very, very entertaining, and he's pretty much one character that has kept me very entertained and has put a huge smile on my face. Then we have the main antagonist of this film, President Business, and in the live action version, which I dare not spoil so much, is the man upstairs. He's a very interesting villain because, yes, he's not anything new, because he's the type of villain who's also, well, basically reminiscent of many other villains that basically have this theme of creativity and reaching beyond the stars. Excuse this cliched line that I said. But yeah, he's definitely this type of villain who tries to hinder everybody from thinking too much or letting their creativity bud so much to the point where things can get out of hand. He does try to keep order, and he is quite over the top in terms of his motives. But I really have to say that he was a lot of fun. He's not really anything deep. He's not really anything that's worth um, rooting for at times. But in the end, which I won't spoil, you'll definitely have a better understanding of him and you'll actually grow to like him more as a character. So, yes, the characters of this film were all colorful. They were all fantastic. Sure, there was nothing deep about them in any shape or form, but it's very safe to say that everyone was just so fun. What's also worth mentioning is that I also like the character of Princess Unikitty. Yeah, at first she's like your everyday, well, My Little Pony knockoff character. But when you make her angry, and when she gets pissed, oh boy, you better head for the hills. Not to mention, Superman was definitely a lot of fun to watch as well. Sure, his screen time was very minute, but he definitely has some of the best lines that I've heard in this film. The same thing can be said about Green Lantern. Both of them had a lot of funny moments, and the same thing can be said about Wonder Woman. I also like the bad cop and good cop. My goodness, was this another entertaining character? He switched sides every time, almost like the mayor of The Nightmare Before Christmas and many other of his predecessors. At one moment, when you see him in shades, he's the bad cop, and then when you see him in glasses and he has a smiley face, he's the good cop. I actually felt very sorry for him when his good cop side got erased. He's a pretty tragic anti hero, so to say, and a very hilarious and entertaining one at that. So, like I said earlier, the characters are all colorful, all fun, and they're basically worth rooting for from beginning to end. The acting was very stellar all around. Chris Pratt managed to capture Emmett's sweet and innocent nature, but also his very gutsy, determined, and very balls on nature all the same. He was definitely a lot of fun to watch from beginning to end. And then we have Will Ferrell as both President Business and the man upstairs. He was able to make President Business a very over the top and very fun villain to watch, and the type of villain that initially we really love to hate at times. He's definitely a lot of fun from beginning to end. And then as the man upstairs, he was a lot more down to earth as this character. As he basically paints this character as you see adults' way of thinking, it's a lot more different than how kids are. But when you combine them together, it'll become a lot more fun for both the adults and kids to understand each other. So I thought he was able to catch both the over the top nature of President Business and also the down to earth nature of the man upstairs. Then we have Charlie Day. Yeah, Charlie Day as Benny. My goodness, did he have a lot of fantastic lines that he splurted out. He was a lot of fun just to listen to every line, especially Spaceship. Oh my goodness, just wow. Morgan Freeman as Ventrivius, yes, I almost forgot about him. Ventrivius is basically your standard mentor type of person who basically gives good advice and is pretty much the father figure of both Emmett and Wildstyle. He's a really good character all around. But we don't really know his origin story. In fact, we don't really know all of the characters' origin story, as colorful as they may be. Well, with the exception of the likes of Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and Wonder Woman, because, well, with their origin stories, you can actually read them in the comics. But with the other characters in this film, we just don't really know that much of them. But ranting aside, I definitely have to say that Morgan Freeman, well, he's Morgan Freeman. He's actually very great when it comes to playing these dignified mentor figures. That's the one roles that's the one role that Mr. Freeman is very well known for playing. Those mentor, old guy, grandpa, father figures to the main characters, whether they be rowdy or insecure or just, well, wanting to experience the world a lot more. He's definitely that great when it comes to playing these type of characters, the mentor characters. Liam Neeson as both the good cop and bad cop, especially the good cops and bad cops father, I definitely felt was just spot on and fantastic all around. He was able to make the bad cop a very gruff sounding Irishman, and then the good cop a very sweet, very fun loving person, and the dad very much a fun loving and very sweet old man. He was able to capture everything all at once. And then we have Will Arnett as Metalbeard. Oh yes, I actually forgot about Metalbeard. He's another fantastic character in this movie. Every line that he said, and his form of badass is just so addicting to watch all around. Will Arnett definitely gave Metalbeard a very memorable presence on screen. He was definitely that fun to watch all around. So overall, the acting was stellar. Stellar casting all around, all thanks to Chris Pratt's down-to-earth line delivery. Oh, and let's not forget about Elizabeth Banks. She was fantastic as Wildstyle. And then we have, oh yeah, the voice actor for Batman. Let me look that up. For this film, let me look that up. Let me see right there. Oh, excuse me. Will Arnett did Batman. And, oh yeah, Nick Offerman. Excuse me if I mixed these names up. Yeah, Nick Offerman as Metalbeard was really fantastic. Will Arnett as Batman was able to capture that Kevin Conroy feel. And I was just, wow. I thought it was Kevin Conroy himself who voiced Batman. But to my surprise, it was Will Arnett. I didn't really know that much about Will Arnett, but his portrayal as Batman was so spot on. Nick Offerman's portrayal of Metalbeard, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And Channing Tatum as Superman, even though he didn't really have that much to say, he was just awesome all around. And he made me have a huge smile on my face. Jonah Hill as the Green Lantern. Didn't have that much to say on screen, but let's just say that every line delivery that he did was, simply put, it made me have such a huge smile on my face. Then we have Cobie Smulders as Wonder Woman. Even though she didn't really have that much to say on screen, all I have to say is that her funniest line definitely had to be, "Quick, to the invisible mobile," and then it gets shot and then she says, "Dang it." It was just so hilarious. So yes, the acting was stellar all around. The music was actually pretty good. I didn't really care for the main theme, the one that goes, "Every day is awesome, da 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 da." I didn't really care for that, even though it is catchy. I just didn't really care for that at all. Granted, it is a catchy tune, but it didn't really resonate with me. And what more can you expect? The music is by Mark Mothersbaugh, who's actually done a lot of great music in the past, and he's also composed music for the Rugrats, of course. So it's easily safe to say that the music is very solid all around, And even though I don't really care for Every Day is Awesome, I still have to say it was a pretty catchy tune, though it's really nothing to write home about. And the live action sequences were also pretty good all around. So overall, even though this film may not be anything that's fresh in terms of the story, it really makes up for it in terms of just how visually innovative it is, in terms of a bunch of characters being all Lego figures. And the characters are very colorful, the acting is very superb, and the music, with the exception of Every Day is Awesome, is actually very solid all around. So I'm going to give this film 4 out of 5 stars. It is definitely worth watching. Sure, the concept may not be anything new, as it basically tells the same chosen one stories, but what makes up for it definitely has to be colorful and very fluid animation alongside a great cast of characters and a huge smorgasbord of great actors all around. I highly recommend this film. And there's also going to be a sequel within the next 3 years, so I actually hope that the sequel will be a lot better than this film. Who knows? This could be the Toy Story of the 21st century. So we'll actually see what this film will come up to in terms of its sequel. As for now, as a standalone film, it's definitely quite innovative in terms of its animation, even though its story isn't really that deep, but it actually makes up for it for a lot of colorful characters, and it's a lot of fun to watch. If you have kids, or if you're an animation fan, then by all means, go ahead and check this movie out. And that's all for now. It's absolutely a must watch for everyone. And even though you're not going to expect something deep, I'm sure that you're going to enjoy this movie for its laughs, colorful characters, and very vivid animation. Well, that's all for now. I don't really have any reviews planned on the next weekend, but if something comes up, well, I'll let you know. I've actually been very busy throughout this month because, well, I have an upcoming play that's going to be, well, somewhere in June, and we're really busy all around. So basically, my private life comes first. Also, you've been noticing that I haven't really been uploading a lot of reviews after my excursions in England and Netherlands. Well, basically, I have an upcoming trip to a lot of different countries that I'm going to travel from the months of July until August. But do expect a lot of reviews from the countries that I'm going to be in, mainly Switzerland, England, Italy, Austria, and Argentina. I'm basically very excited for this trip because this is actually going to be my summer break. So do expect a whole lot of reviews to occur during my summer vacation, which is going to start on July 4th. Well, that's all for now. I hope that you all enjoyed this review. And until then, this is Antoni signing off and wishing you all a good day. Have a nice day, and to everybody else, good morning and good evening, and well, see you later.